Have you ever felt like you were waiting for something, waiting for a prayer to be answered, waiting for a change in your circumstances? We all know what it feels like to wait. Sometimes it feels like God is taking too long. We get impatient. We wonder if He has forgotten us. But I want to tell you something important today. God has a perfect plan for your life, and His timing is always perfect. It might not be our timing. It might not be what we expect, but it is always right. Trusting God's timing is a big part of living a life of faith. It's about believing He knows best even when we don't understand. God sees the bigger picture. We only see a small part. We see what is right in front of us. We see our desires and our needs now, but God sees the beginning from the end. He knows what we need before we even ask. He knows the lessons we need to learn. He knows the growth we need to experience. Sometimes the waiting period is part of His plan. It is in the waiting that He shapes us. He prepares us for what He has in store. So don't get discouraged when things don't happen on your schedule. God is at work. He is working behind the scenes for your good. King David was a man after God's own heart. He loved God deeply. He wanted to honor God in a special way. After God had given him rest from all his enemies, David had a big idea. He was living in a beautiful palace made of cedar, but the Ark of God, which represented God's presence, was dwelling in a tent. David felt this wasn't right. He thought God deserved something much grander. He said to Nathan the prophet, "See now, I dwell in a house of cedar, but the Ark of God dwells inside tent curtains." His heart was in the right place. He had a sincere desire to do something great for God. David's intention was good. He wanted to build a magnificent temple for the Lord, a permanent place for God's Ark, a place where people could come and worship. He probably imagined it all in his mind, the beautiful stones, the intricate carvings, the gold and silver. He was a king. He had the resources. He had the power to make it happen. He was ready to get started. He was excited about this project. So David shared his plan with Nathan the prophet. And at first, Nathan said, "Go, do all that is in your heart, for the Lord is with you." It seemed like a green light. But that very night, God spoke to Nathan. God had a different message for David. It wasn't a complete no to the temple, but it was a no to David building it. God told Nathan to tell David that he would not be the one to build the temple. Instead, his son Solomon would build it. This must have been surprising for David. Maybe even a little disappointing. He had such a strong desire. God explained his reasons. He told David, "You have shed much blood and have waged great wars. You shall not build a house for my name, because you have shed much blood on the earth in my sight." David had been a warrior king. His life had been filled with battles. God wanted the temple to be built by a man of peace. This wasn't a punishment for David. God still loved David. In fact, God made a wonderful covenant with David that night. He promised David an everlasting kingdom. He promised that his throne would be established forever. This was an incredible promise, far greater than building a physical temple. Think about David's response. Now let's turn to another story. A story about Jesus and his timing. It happened at a wedding in Cana of Galilee. Jesus, his mother Mary, and his disciples were all invited. Weddings in those days were big celebrations. They often lasted for several days. And of course there was food and wine. Wine was a symbol of joy and celebration. Running out of wine at a wedding would have been a huge embarrassment for the host family. It would have been a social disaster. It would have cast a shadow over the whole happy occasion. And that's exactly what happened. In the middle of the festivities, the wine ran out. Can you imagine the panic? The host is probably whispering to the servants. The servants are scrambling. Guests are starting to notice. Mary, the mother of Jesus, became aware of the problem. She knew Jesus. She knew he was special. She had seen things. She believed he could do something. Section 5. The Master's Touch. Water into wine, lessons in waiting. So, the servants were ready. Mary had told them to obey Jesus. There were 6 large stone water pots there. These were used for Jewish rites of purification. Each pot could hold about 20 to 30 gallons. That's a lot of water. Jesus told the servants, "Fill the water pots with water," and they filled them up to the brim. They didn't question him. They didn't say, "But we need wine, not water." They simply obeyed. This obedience was crucial. It was a step of faith. They were participating in the miracle even before they saw the result. Then Jesus said to them, "Draw some out now and take it to the master of the feast." Imagine being one of those servants. You just filled these huge pots with ordinary water. Now you're supposed to take a cup of it to the head steward, the expert on wine. What would he think? What if it was still just water? It took courage to obey that instruction. Section 6. The School of Waiting, Building Faith and Character. God's pace often feels slow to us, doesn't it? We live in a world that wants everything instantly. Instant coffee, instant communication, instant results. So, when God asks us to wait, it can be really challenging. But I want you to understand something. The waiting room of God is often a classroom. It's where He teaches us some of the most valuable lessons in life. It's where our faith is stretched and strengthened. It's where our character is refined. If we got everything immediately, we would miss out on this important process of growth. God is more interested in who we are becoming than just what we are getting. Think about it. Patience is a fruit of the Spirit. How do we develop patience? By having to be patient. By waiting. Trust is built in the waiting. When we choose to trust God even when we can't see the outcome, our faith muscles get stronger. When we face delays and uncertainties, we have a choice. We can get frustrated and anxious, or we can lean into God. We can say, "God, I don't understand this timing, but I trust you. I know you are good." Section 7. Walking in Step. The Power of Perseverance and Obedience. Trusting God's timing isn't a passive activity. It's not just about sitting around and doing nothing. It often requires active perseverance and faithful obedience. Think about David. Even though God told him he wouldn't build the temple, David didn't just give up on the idea. He persevered in his desire to honor God. He did what he could do. He gathered materials. He made preparations. He instructed his son Solomon. He stayed engaged in God's plan, even though his role was different than he initially imagined. He was obedient to the new direction God gave him. Perseverance means continuing in a course of action despite difficulties or delays. It's about not giving up when things get tough. When God's timing seems slow, it's easy to get discouraged. It's easy to want to quit. But God calls us to persevere. He wants us to keep trusting, keep praying, keep moving forward in faith, even when we don't see immediate results. Hebrews 10:36 says, "For you have need of endurance so that after you have done the will of God, you may receive the promise." Section 8. Beyond the finish line, trusting God's process. In our fast-paced world, we are often very focused on the outcome. We want to get to the finish line. We want the prayer answered, the problem solved, the dream realized. And it's natural to desire good outcomes. God wants to bless us. But sometimes we can get so fixated on the destination that we miss the importance of the journey. God is often just as interested, if not more interested, in the process. He is interested in what happens in us while we are on the way to the outcome. He is shaping us, molding us, teaching us. Think about a potter and clay. The potter doesn't just want a finished pot. The process of shaping the clay, removing impurities and firing it in the kiln is essential to create a beautiful and useful vessel. We are like clay in God's hands. The waiting, the challenges, the delays. These are all part of His process of shaping us. If we only focus on the end result, we might resist the very things God is using to make us more like Jesus. We might complain about the pressure or the heat, not realizing it's for our good. Section 9. Not a no but a not yet delays as divine appointments. It's so important to remember that a delay from God is not necessarily a denial. Sometimes we interpret waiting as God saying no to our prayers or desires, but often it's simply a not yet. God's timing is perfect and His delays often have a divine purpose. They are not meant to frustrate us, even though they sometimes do. They are opportunities. Opportunities for growth. Opportunities for preparation. Opportunities for God to work things out in ways we cannot see or understand at the moment. He is getting us ready for what He is getting ready for us. Think about it. Perhaps you are not yet ready for the blessing you are asking for. Maybe you need to develop more patience or humility or strength of character. Maybe the circumstances are not yet aligned for the best possible outcome. God sees the whole picture. He knows when the time is ripe. He knows when you are truly prepared to handle the blessing He wants to give you. If He gave it to you too soon, it might not be a blessing at all. It might even be harmful. So a delay can be an act of God's love and protection. These periods of waiting are when God does some of His deepest work in us. He refines our motives. He tests our faith. He teaches us to depend on Him more fully.